Dr. George Hill is the official historian of the Essex County Medical Society. Dr. Hill became a member of our society when he moved to New Jersey in 1981 and was appointed professor of surgery at the New Jersey Medical School. Dr. Hill became a member of the council of this society in 1986, and he was the 157th president of the Essex County Medical Society from 1995 to 1996. 157. He retired from the medical school in 1996, after which he served as coordinator of research at St. Barnabas Medical Center from 1997 to 1999, Dr. Jacobs' hangout. He has written and spoken on several occasions about the history of the Essex County Medical Society, and he will tell us more about our history now this evening. Thank you, Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Some of you who are old as I am, or near that, will remember a joke that I'm not going to tell the whole joke because we're in mixed and gentle company here, but you remember the punchline. You'll know the joke when I tell you the punchline. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not sure how to make it interesting. And that's where we are. Somebody remember that joke? Or is that? Yeah, right. The history of the Essex County Medical Society I've spoken on several times. Now, how many here can remember anything that I said at any of those? One hand raised. Wow. So I can give the same talk again, right? In fact, I expected that answer, which led me to think maybe I better not give the talk at all, but talk about something else. I have it all written down here, all ready to go. But I decided that in my career, my additional sort of career as a historian, I learned one thing very early, and that is that in the ecumenical world of the academy, as they call it, the universities and that sort of thing, we don't have BC and AD. We have BCE, before the Christian era. And I suddenly realized that's the history of the Essex County Medical Society. That's all I need to tell you tonight. There's BCE, and there's everything after that. And BCE is, of course, before Caggiano and Ellenberger, right? Oh, thank you. You've made my day. But actually, you're clapping for Art and Tony, aren't you? Anthony. Now, I learned a few things from these two gentlemen that are more important than anything I could tell you about how medicine started in Essex County. Before there was Essex County, it started with the Dutch when they came here and made New Netherlands, and they had the North River beside Manhattan Island, and I could tell you about that, but that's really boring. What is interesting, if you get Arthur to tell you about what it was like to come over at the end of World War II in Europe as a young man, and I know something about that because my dad came at the same time that Arthur did. My dad was in the 97th Division, and Arthur was in the 84th. And they were both there traipsing across as fast as they could go because the war was about to get over, and they wanted to be in it before it got over. And there's nothing quite as interesting as smelling gun smoke and not get shot, actually. And Arthur has some good stories to tell. And Anthony, I still remember when I sat across at Nanita's restaurant. At Nanita's restaurant, we were at an annual meeting of the society, and I was sitting on the other side of the table from Anthony, whose name I finally learned is pronounced something like we never pronounce in Iowa, but Caggiano. Anyhow, Anthony, I said, Anthony, you are such a successful politician. How do you do it? And he says, it's very simple. Never say no. Huh? Right? Anyhow, so these two gentlemen, the Essex County Medical Society history is all before them or after them. And there isn't an awful lot after them yet, but it's going to go for a long, long time. Let me tell you just one other thing to emphasize how old this society is, not just when I was the 157? There were 180 years of it, but some of the presidents in the early days, the society was very small, and they served on and on and on for several years. So we have more years of history than we actually have presidents. And I wrote all of that down. You can go to it on the web, and you don't want to hear it again tonight. But let me just emphasize history with one thing. Take a look at this behind me, all blown up here, and try and figure out what it means. Well, let me say this. We started at a tavern. The first meeting of the Essex County District Medical Society, which then included Union County and I think maybe a piece of Passaic, back in 1816, the year after the Second War of Independence ended, they started this society. And they started at this tavern, and here, sure enough, there's a martini cup sitting on here. And at the top here, I mean, this is a caduceus, and you understand that. What in the world is that bare-bottomed lion rampant with a kukri knife? What in the world does that have? I'm looking at it for the first time right now, and I've got some investigation to do. I don't know why a lion rampant facing Dexter with a kukri knife is the symbol on the top of the Essex County Medical Society. Does anybody know?
He's a surgeon.
That's right. So it's a kind of a scrawny lion. I mean, really skinny. Doesn't have a good mane, and certainly doesn't have a.
Because he's working for managed care.
That's it. That's it. So the history of the society teaches us a few lessons. There were some very important early things. Early on, the society formed to control the practice of medicine in this part of the state, because it also included, as I say, Elizabeth. And the problem was that there were a lot of irregular practitioners who were doing things that they called medicine, and the doctors, they didn't have MDs in those days. First MD who was a president of the society was about 100 years later. But they wanted to make sure that medicine was well practiced, and they wanted to control it. And so they petitioned the state early on. This was actually 50 years before the society was formed in 1816. Doctors from Essex County and some of the other counties petitioned the state to control the practice of medicine. And we asked the state to do then what we now are saying, we've had enough of it. To read the early minutes and see the petitions to the state to regulate medicine, to keep all those outsiders out, and to see the flip side of that now is really amazing. So that's one thing they did. The other thing they wanted to do was to be sociable. And it didn't always work, because right in the earliest days of the society, there was a Tory in their midst. And how do you become sociable when you have a person who was on the other side in the most important event in your lifetime? They accommodated it. He was a president of the society, but they never liked him. And the records are very clear that there are some things that happen that are very unpleasant, but they're kind of papered over. And don't we need to do that today? Because we got to put harmony first in the end rather than conflict. And that's my history of the Essex County Medical Society. I hope it's a little different than I did last time.